Hi, welcome to another lawn fawn video. I'm Kara, and today our charming gnome is turning into a charm. So we're using garden gnome, and I've cut him out of cardstock and also felt. So I used storm cloud paper bag, fake tan, apricot, peacock, sunflower, and some fog. For the card, I'll also use stitched windy backdrop and forest backdrop with some well-loved Into the Woods pattern paper. The pine trees will be noble fir with little accents in rainforest, and I'll use fog for the mushrooms and canned pumpkin and fake tan, little rainforest for the grass, and the sentiment comes from yay kites. So I'm going to start by ink blending the background, so the stitched windy backdrop, using lawnfawn's peacock ink. I'm keeping it kind of light in the center and darker on the edges. Add some adhesive with the tape runner, and I'm going to apply that right to the card. And I didn't let this dry all the way, so when I tried to apply my forest backdrop, I needed to add some glue to get that down. I could have waited till it dried, but a little impatient there. So the way I'm going to add these trees is I'm puzzle piecing in the rainforest cardstock and flip that over, and then I will take my glue tube and just cover everything with glue, and then add that to the card. And then I got a little smart, and I added those little details upside down with the last one. Of course, I had to wait to the last one to figure that out, so I didn't have to flip it around and have pieces possibly fall out. So I put glue on the entire back side and glued that on. And there is our forest backdrop all set. So next I'm going to paper piece the garden gnome. I'm ink blending a few of the pieces for the gnome. This is pumpkin spice for the hat, just make it shaded a bit and make it look curved. And I'll use that on his little pants as well, just a little bit. I'm using the tiny little life-changing blender brushes, and they just seem to work well to get into these little spots. And so this is peacock ink to go with the peacock cardstock, and a little apricot ink to go with the apricot cardstock, and that gives him some nice shading on his face. All right, now I can put it all together. If I had thought about it ahead of time, I would have cut that frame part of the gnome out of adhesive sheets, but instead I'm going to use my Lawn Fawn glue tube, and the way I keep it kind of controlled so that not a lot of glue comes out is I have this consistent but light pressure on the tube, and I pretty much just drag it around like I'm writing on the paper itself. All right, adhere that down, and time to put in all the little puzzle pieces. So we've got his hat, and what I love about this gnome is that you could just dress him up in all kinds of colors. Today I'm using mainly fake tan and peacock for his outfit, but I love that you can, you can make this into somebody's favorite colors, or match colored pattern paper, or maybe make sports team colors for a fan. All right, so we're adding some fog for his beard and mustache, and there's his apricot face. And now I'm adding those little eyes back in. I like to put the paper over the area that it's going to be added to, and then poke it down into the space. So you can see with his little shoes, I'm just going to poke that through and then make sure that they're in correctly. And his little belt as well. That's a tiny little piece. Actually, I put some glue on the back of the belt part and then poked that down. And I did the same thing with the pants. So put on some glue and then laid it over the top and poked it down, and then kind of just shifted it to make sure that it's in where it needs to go. And you can see I get glue everywhere, but it doesn't show up, and typically I just kind of scrape it off first with my scissors, and now I put the glue inside the little puzzle itself. That way I can just put those pieces right down in there, and our little gnome is all set for the card. Well, next I'm going to add a little bit more decoration on the front of my card. These little mushrooms come with the forest backdrop, and they're just darling. So I used both fake tan and canned pumpkin for those. And I wanted to make sure that they had a little bit of shading on them, just like his hat did. And it didn't take a lot. And then I'm going to glue them onto the stems and decide where I want to place them on my card. Have those little pieces of grass. Those also come with the forest backdrop. I'm keeping things pretty symmetrical on this simple card. So I have two mushrooms and two pieces of grass on both sides. So everything's kind of balanced there. And then this hello is going to go over the top, kind of bring some green up at the top. And the way I stamp this so that it fits right in there is to die cut the hello first and then use the negative to place that stamp in there so it fits in kind of like a puzzle piece. And then I can add back in the hello, use my anti-static pad and some clear ink and stamp that onto that little thin die cut. I'll add some white embossing powder, and I'm sprinkling this on in a coffee filter. You've probably seen that or used it yourself. I'm just amazed because that embossing powder sticks to everything, but coffee filters, it just doesn't. I don't know why, but I love it. So that's a easy hack there. All right, I melted that embossing powder, and now I'm going to glue it onto my card. Again, I'm using my lawnfawn glue tube and just using some even but light pressure on the back and just dragging that glue over the back. And now I can add it to my card, and this card is almost done. Just need to add my gnome. So I wasn't sure, should I put some foam on him, but I'm going to make this one a flat card. And I'm going to keep the dimension in the next project, which is creating the garden gnome out of felt. Some of my felt is wool blend and some is pure wool. And I found that the wool blend was good for the thin little lines because, I don't know, it just didn't fall apart as much. So I used that on the outside, and then I didn't care which kinds I used on the inside. It really didn't matter. But this is not the craft felt that you get in the kids section. This is more in the fabric section of your craft store. I used small pieces of felt to selectively cut the different sections. That way I didn't have to use a lot of felt. All right, well, what I'm doing is piecing it all in. I didn't glue anything down yet. I'm just putting together the puzzle, and now you can see his little eyes are going in. But this way, once I have it all together, then it's easier to glue. So I have tried gluing every little bit, but this way I found was a lot easier. I just flipped them over like a pancake. Now I can just add some glue. Now I'm using craft store glue. This is a turbo tacky glue, and it's a thicker glue. It's not as wet. It doesn't get absorbed by the felt, so you won't see or feel this hardened area anywhere. So I'm just adding that glue everywhere, making sure that it's on all of the different sections, all the different colors and the lines. Once I have that everywhere I want it, now I can just add on the back piece. So it's as simple as that. Put it together like a puzzle, flip it over, add the glue, and put on the back piece. I want to make sure they line up well and that I get all the excess glue off of there. I'll fuss with it for a little bit and use my scissors to help scrape away any of that glue. Then I'll press him flat just to make sure everything is in tight and get some glue off where it seeped out. Now he would be perfect just like that, but I'm going to add an extra back and I'm going to use a blanket stitch to do it and stuff him so that he's a little bit of a plushie. So I'm putting the two pieces together and I am going to hide the knot of my thread inside. So I'm just using some embroidery floss and I'm going to clip a little bit of that tail off so that I don't have to contend with it later. So now that the knot is hidden, I want to make sure that my two pieces are lined up again. And from the back, I am putting the needle through and then pick up that little loop before it's all tight and connect it and then do the same thing. So I'm going through the back again and I've got a little bit of that loop still there. Go through that loop and tighten it. And there's my blanket stitch. And I'm making a very small blanket stitch. So it's the size of that outer border. And usually blanket stitches are colorful, but I wanted to keep mine black so you could see it, but that it didn't take away from the gnome. I didn't really want to change up what my outer edges looked like. So I'm just continuing on. I am going to show one more time. Here we go through the back, through to the front, find that loop and pull. And so I'm going to go all the way around. I want to make sure that my gnome stays together. So I keep looking at the front and back. I could have pinned that, I guess, to keep it together, but I just keep making sure that the sides meet up. All right, when I get down to a small area like the hands or the feet, I make sure I have a stitch coming out of each corner. So the different points, so the front of his toe, the back of his heel, and that way he keeps his shape pretty well. Now we're going from the heel up to the pant leg, and from the bottom of the pant leg to the top of the pant leg. So that just makes sure that it's all staying in a nice shape. Once I get it to this point where it's almost done, I am going to put in one more stitch here and then I'm going to fill him. Now, there was not a piece of batting, a cotton ball, anything in my house, but the gauze, or I guess that's what they are. Anyway, use what you have. And so I just cut them down pretty small so I could bunch them up and stuff them in. So he's got surgical swabs in his as a stuffing. I'm using that craft pick to help poke everything down. I want to make sure that he has enough stuffing in his legs and in his arms. And then once I have that kind of pushed down to the point where I like it, then I'm just going to sew him up a little bit more. And then I'll put a little stuffing at the top and then sew him all the way up. I recently made an acorn welcome banner out of the acorn house with felt, and so that kind of got me spurred on to do a little bit more with my felt. And I thought, oh, this would be a cute little guy to maybe hang on a backpack or I don't know, as a keychain or something. So I wanted to share it with you, and maybe you'll find something to do with felt and your dies as well. All right, well, here comes that last couple of stitches here. And the way I finished this off, now I am not a sewer, so I had to look up on YouTube how to do a blanket stitch. I mean, I've done them before, but I just don't sew a whole lot. So I'm finishing this up, and if you are a sewer, you're probably going, that's not how you finish something up. But this is how I finished it up. I just poked it through, poked that the needle through, and then buried that piece of floss inside the little guy, and hopefully it won't come apart. All right, well, time to get out the ancient eyelet tools If you've been paper crafting 20 years or so, you probably have these as well. So I just put a hole in his hat and put an eyelet in there. Now I am going to set the eyelet on the back, and it's a little thick, but it works. And so now I have a hole to put my little chain through, and this is one of those ball chains that just links up. And there he is. He's all set. He is going on a backpack, and he's accompanied by another little guy. So nice thing about felt is you can do it forwards or backwards. And so these two are facing opposite ways. So there we go. A matching card for the orange gnome and keychain charms out of felt. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video today and it inspired you to maybe use some felt with your dies. Thank you for watching and have a great day. Bye!